This is Mia from MIMODESIGN data files, and today we are going to learn how to cut acrylic. I'll be using my LaserPecker LP5, and besides showing you how to cut the acrylic, I'll also teach you how to design this type of keychain in Laser Design Space, as well as resin fill it like this one. Believe it or not, this was my first acrylic cut ever. I've had lasers for 4 years. Your sharp eye might notice that I do have 2 holes, and there's a really good reason for that. I'll explain this in a bit, but let's start with the design. We are now in the LaserPecker Design Space, and this is the keychain that I already built. I will show you how to build the exact same. If you don't want to learn this, you can skip this chapter and move on to the acrylic cutting part or the resin part. But to create a keychain like this, I'll just take this one and remove it over here. You do want to go over to the shapes and choose the ellipse. If you hold down your shift key, you can make a perfectly round circle. You could also just type it in over here. If your aspect ratio is locked, go ahead and type in the measurements you want it to be. I want mine to be 4.5 centimeters. That's what I did with the one over here. Now you could either create one more circle, or you could just copy and paste. Use your mouse and drag this square box over both circles. Now you go to Align and Align Center. Click one of the circles and go ahead and type in some new measurements. The measurements that you type in is the frame distance on this one. You could go as low as, let's see, say 1 centimeter. Then you grab both your circles again, align center, but it is a little thick. So I am actually going to click my inner piece here, and I think I'll make mine 37. So that's an 0.8 millimeter frame. Align center again, and now you have your frame. Now it's time to add in this little hole, and for this I do recommend that you zoom in. So go down here and zoom in to 1000. Because the tiny hole that you will be making, you will just go to shapes again, hit the ellipse, and hold down your shift key, and now you have a circle. This little circle I only want to be 1.5 millimeters. So I now have my circle. It can be a little difficult to get this positioned the exact spot, especially if you didn't zoom out. Let's just zoom in. So let's zoom out again and see if we actually could hit this one, but it is a little difficult to see where it goes. So the best way is to zoom in, and you'll have more control over your design. Once you have this one, you place it around the middle on the frame. Then you can mark everything, go to Align, and then Align Horizontal Centers. Now it is in the center of the line, and this distance you probably just want to eyeball. You could draw a square or something like that, and if you can get your square to snap to the ends, that's a possibility. But this is fine just as is. I will grab everything again, and for your sake I will choose fit screen. I will copy and paste it over here. And I will group this one because I will add this frame for free in the graph zone as well as my own Google Drive. So you'll be able to find links below on where to get this frame in case you don't want to build your own. But let's go back to 1000%. And now you want to add in a letter. I had a request from my 4-year-old and he wanted me to make his capital. His name is Felix. So I will go to text. I'll hit the middle here and I'll type in an F. You can of course choose other fonts if you want, but I find that this one, which is Times New Roman, is perfect because it does have these small pieces that will grip it. Before you start resizing it, I do recommend that you go up here and lock your aspect ratio. Now you can just drag it to a size that you find appropriate. So I will have to make mine slightly larger. And I think this will probably work fine. I will just zoom out a little because I am losing the corners of my F. And now I'm going to mark everything. I'll just start by taking my little circle, if I can. Which? Let's zoom in again. Let's move the F. And I'll click my little circle, and while I hold down Control, I can click the outer ring. I do want to group these together and maybe even lock them so they don't move. Now I can grab my text. And I will mark everything, and I will align center. And I will use my arrow keys to kind of just bring it down a little, like this, to where I find it appropriate. These edges might get a little small when you are cutting, so whenever you are cutting text, I do recommend that you make an offset. First of all, this will probably engrave, so I will choose outline. And I will just make a tiny little offset. I'll just type it in around 0.3 or something like that. So now that I have my offset, I will not preserve internal piece and I'll hit confirm. I will go to text and I'll just hit delete. So now I made this F instead of the typed in F. This is way stronger than the one that I had. So I will click the F, hold down Control and hit my inner circle. I just want to make sure that I am grabbing my inner circle, which I wasn't. So I will take this outer circle, and I'm just using my arrow keys up and down because then I can place it the same way again. So I'll see if I can lock this outer space, and you see that this red thing will appear. So if I drag now, I should be able to mark both without grabbing the locked part. I now want to combine these. And I think it is subtract selection. It was. And now it's welded. So I will group everything. I'll just unlock the layer here. And now I will group everything. Let's see. I do have 3 groups. I'll just make these invisible because that's the stuff I had over here. Let's zoom out again, fit on screen. And now the only thing that I have on my desktop is the F that we are now going to cut. Before I send my project here to my laser, there are a few things that you should pay attention to and be aware of. The first thing would be to check and secure that your laser is level. If it's not level, you will not be able to cut through. So if you do have trouble with the bubble being in center, I do recommend that you watch the tutorial that LaserPecker has on their official site. I'll drop a link below. And align your laser first or level it out. Another thing you want to be aware of is that when you cut acrylic, it does smell terrible. So if you don't have an air purifier, you can vent out of a window. I, as you might see, don't have any windows that open, so I am actually going to use my air purifier. But when I cut this acrylic yesterday, I could still smell it. So I will be wearing a mask while I am cutting the acrylic, because not only does it smell bad, it's also kind of dangerous to inhale. So make sure that you have the safety precautions in order when you are going to cut acrylic. When you are cutting, you of course need a plate of some sort to cut on, so you don't cut down to your laser. And now I will share why I have two holes. So I actually made my first test over here with this brown paper still on top of the acrylic. That caused a lot of flames while it was cutting, and also a lot of the plastic actually melted. So I removed my paper from this corner and I cut it again, and the cutting that I did was this result. So I did add resin to it, but you might see how beautiful it did cut. So always remove the paper on top of your acrylic, and if you have plastic on top of the acrylic, you definitely want to remove that, because that's dangerous. So the paper on the back I didn't remove, and I actually found it helpful to have it stay on, because then it didn't have any melting on the back of the project. The back is not an issue, but the front is. Another little side note is that my acrylic sheet is way bigger than my laser. So once I turn this on, and I will not turn it on until I'm done speaking, because I know that the noise of my laser goes to my microphone. But yesterday I actually held my acrylic in place while cutting, because if I didn't, it did have a chance to angle just a tiny bit inside the laser, and you don't want that. I did order some acrylic samples on Amazon. I will also drop a link below for those, because they are a greater fit and a better size for this tiny LaserPecker. But let's show you how to cut. I did have to turn on my machine to be able to connect it, so I will just connect my LaserPecker LP5 and hope that you can hear my voice without it drowning from the laser noise. I did turn off my air, so I will turn it on as soon as I get to the cutting. But once you have your groove entered here, you go down and add some settings. To cut acrylic, I will be using the diode laser 450 nm. I only did one pass yesterday. If you have small spots that doesn't cut all the way through, you could either try and give it 2 passes, or you can use a sharp knife to cut it free, which I did yesterday without any issues. The power I set to 90 and the depth I've set to 95. You can of course try and find better settings if you like, but I find these to be really useful for me. Now that you have your settings, you hit preview. I will remove my glass and I'll see if I can find the correct focal height, and also I want to move my design so I don't waste too much material. But let's find the right distance first. So the 2 red dots should turn into 1. And I know you might not see it well from this angle, I'm sorry. But mine is positioned right now. I just try to move you a little closer so you can get a better visual. Now I want to move my project so I can get it fitted where I want it to be without wasting too much material. I am just dragging with my mouse, but now that I have it where I want it on top, I will just use my arrow keys and move it a little to the side. And I will now plug on my air and we can start cutting. My machine is now done cutting and I just took off the air. So remove your piece and I'll just see if I can shift it so you do see that it's dangling from my project. Be a little careful because this is burnt plastic, so it will be a little hot. But lucky for me, it was only a piece of the brown tape on the back which was stuck. So now you can just go ahead and poke out the pieces, and this did cut through perfectly. So all that's left to do, let's see if I can get this tiny dot out without using a tool. Again, I'll just grab a toothpick, just a sec. So if you just grab a tool of some sort, there you go. So now you can remove the tape on the back, and maybe you saw something that did look like flames on the video I did, at least with my glasses on and by watching my phone, but it was actually smoke and not flames. It did have a few flames on the back of this ornament, but it's nothing that's ruined anything. So the tape can be, or paper, sorry, can be a little hard to peel off on the back until you find a loose end. So let's just peel it off here. And there you go. So I now cut a piece of acrylic and I will show you now how to add resin to it. So if you'd like to learn how to add resin to it, keep watching. If you don't want to learn that, thank you so much for watching. To make this little fun keychain, you will be needing UV resin. you'll need a stirring stick of some sort, a little silicone cup. I also use a silicone underlay. You will be needing a silicone tool like this, and you will be needing resin tape for the ornaments. To cure the resin, you will also be needing UV lights, and to clean out bubbles, you could either use a heating tool like this or just a regular lighter. The most important part is actually gloves, because resin is really sticky, and also you might use a mask because the fumes can be toxic and cause a headache and breathing issues. I will be using a ton of glitter. I know that Felix specifically asked me to go with blue in his keychain, so I'll be mixing and matching some of the blue glitter that I have. This one I use silver glitter and gold leaf. I also have a short video on how I made that, but I didn't talk while I made it, so this tutorial might be a little easier for you to follow. Let's start by preparing the ornaments. So you grab a piece of your resin tape, and I'll just cut one off like this. Be careful that you don't get fingerprints all over it, and then you just place a little acrylic cut in the middle. Push it down without touching the tape, and you can now go ahead and make it stick really good, and see if you can poke out just a few of the bubbles. And again, be careful that you don't get your fingers on the middle piece over here. Now mine is stuck, and I'll just add it to my table again. I'll move it up here because I have this little groove on my silicone mat. Now take your gloves on, and I do prefer to mix my dry ingredients, you might say, first. So I'll just pick a range of glitter and add it into the little cup. So I poured my glitter in now. I did accidentally pour in too much of some of it, but I hope it will spread and not turn out too solid. Otherwise it is just for my son, so it's okay. I did spill a little of the glitter, which doesn't matter since I am on a silicone lay. But now I want to add in the resin, so I will just gently, don't push too hard before you have it sealed on the glitter. And I'll just use about half a cup like this. Once you have your resin in it, you just mix it all together. And I really love using these. It's actually nail sticks, but they are perfect for UV resin. So once it's mixed well together like this, you just gently pour it out to the most open surfaces. UV resin is a little thick in the consistency, where epoxy resin is more liquid. But for projects like these, I do prefer to work with UV resin, because you can cure it immediately under a lamp. Let it go to the edges on its own, but you can now use your stick to place drops where you don't have any resin. This does take a few minutes, so I will speed up the video until I'm done with this step. So when it comes to resin, less is more, and I actually had just a little bit too much, so I'm using the silicone shape to use up my excess. But you want it to be covered, you don't have to fill it all the way to the top, because you will be making a top layer and a layer on the back as well with clear resin. You might notice that when I added into these tiny spots, I used this sharp end of my nail tool here. Now we want to remove bubbles, and there's two ways you can do that. You can either use fire or flames and just gently go over the top of your resin. That way the bubbles will burst. I do, however, personally recommend to use this hot air gun, and I'll just wipe it over quickly. And the reason that I prefer using this one is that it will kind of melt the resin just a little and make it run easier to the sides, where the lighter will kind of just burst the surface bubbles, sorry. So I'll just use some air on this one as well. And now that we're ready to cure, I just added the plug to my light, and I will kind of gather all my tools here so they can cure as well, and I can clean them. I might move this over here. So you want to cure this for about, depending on the brand of resin you use, you want to cure it about 1 to 2 minutes. Let's see if I can get this a little over here. There we go. So I will let this cure, and I'll get back to you once it's done. My 2 minutes are up, and one easy way to check if it has hardened is to, let's just remove this, tap it with the end of your stick or whatever. You do hear that it is solid. So I'll just turn off the light and I'll remove these. And now we can get to the top coat. So for that, you just grab the bottle and you place a big drop in the center here. Not too much, because then you might risk it going over your edge. Take your silicone tool and just kind of push it to the edge. And this is where I think it's really great to use the hot air gun, because it will help it become a little more liquid. So it will kind of run it to the edge of your project. Just be careful that you don't get too close with your hot air gun, because then you might risk that you blow the resin over the edge, and we don't want that. We want it to go to the edge without running over it. When you get to the tiny hole here, I recommend that you just kind of tap with the tip of your silicone tool, because you don't want silicone or resin to get stuck inside the hole. So you don't want too much up here. So I'm almost done. And once you see that you have the resin all around. I do recommend that you just squat down so you can look at it from an angle, because then you will see if you are missing any spots. I'm not, so I will turn on my hot air gun and remove some bubbles. And again, I will just turn on my UV light. I'll take my little silicone tool here as well and place on the side. And I'll let this cure for 2 to 3 minutes. Once your project is cured, you just remove your UV light. I'll just unplug mine. And here is the beautiful surface on this one. So it is so shiny and bubble free. And now I can peel off the back. Don't peel too hard or fast, because if it didn't cure properly, you might risk that you pull up the resin. Mine is, however, perfectly cured. So now you just want to do the same as we did on the front. So take your UV resin, add a drop. I'll just show you up here the amount of drop that I usually place. And it's something, let's focus again, something like this. So you could actually hold it up and kind of just run it down to the edge, but I do recommend that you place it flat and use your silicone tool. Since this was cured, I can just peel off the hard resin and it's now clean. So go over the back again like we did on the front and drag your resin to the edge. Plug in your UV lamp, and again we want to let this cure for 2 to 3 minutes. And once again, since it's cured, I'll just turn off my lamp. And I removed my gloves by now because it is done and finished to apply my hardware. I know that Felix likes to or wants to use this on his back, so I'll grab a few pliers and a regular keychain. And the easiest way to take your keychains is by using 2 pliers and just, if I can get a grip, pull them apart like this. Take one plier off and then you just add it inside your hole. Then you can take your keychain and take your other plier again and just move them back together. Like that. And I always like to see if I can take the opening and pull it inside the hole. So this is the keychain that we just made for Felix. Another little thing that I wanted to share, again, as I said, once your silicone tools are cured, you can easily just scrape it off. The little silicone cup, I'll just flip over, and there's my silicone. I will rinse this under blue cut water to clean off all the smaller parts. And for the silicone shape here, let's poke these out. And these are some tiny, small, cute accessories for Felix as well. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a like, please subscribe to my channel, and also hit that bell icon for notifications on future tutorials. If you have any requests or ideas for projects to make and show you, Please drop a comment below. I'm always happy when I get input from you, because I'll rather do a bunch of tutorials on something you want to learn instead of what I think you want to learn. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.